The Tour de France, the world's largest annual cycling race, which consists of athletes from all over the globe competing against each other as they race across France, is considered one of the most physically excruciating competitions one could put their body through. Many top cyclists struggle to complete it, and often some will end up in the hospital. That being said, there is one man who proved time and time again that he was the best. Not only did he compete in the races for over a decade, he won 7 of them in a row, quickly becoming the fan favorite, all while being a survivor of testicular cancer, which cost him 1 testicle. But who knows, maybe that's his secret. That man was Lance Armstrong. Unfortunately, after over a decade of being a cyclist and pushing his body to its limits daily, Lance flew too close to the sun and got caught. In 2012, a new drug test revealed that Lance had been taking multiple brands of steroids. Many other athletes competing in the Tour de France were also discovered to have been using as well, but Lance was the face of the crime and the talk of the world for many weeks, even appearing on multiple talk shows, newscasts, magazines, and even going on Oprah to publicly apologize and beg his fans to forgive him for his mistake. Sadly, it doesn't look like he'll be finding forgiveness anytime soon. Once described by New York Times as the greatest baseball player who ever lived, Barry Bonds had a promising career as a baseball player. Recruiters were figuratively lining up at his door to try and get him to join their team. Nothing seemed to be stopping the unstoppable Barry Bonds, until he tarnished his own name by getting himself into the middle of a very large steroid scandal, in which him and many other athletes of many different sports were found to have been taking drugs provided by the same underground drug ring. To make matters worse, Barry went on interviews where he appeared to be non-apologetic about the crimes he had committed, and looked as though he couldn't care less about the trust he had broken between his fans and him, effectively throwing his own career under the bus. At this point, his career is virtually unsavable. The man who was once thought to be Sports Hall of Fame material is now nothing more than a stain on baseball history. The ever so unstable Mike Tyson is a boxing legend of his time, nearly unbeatable. But out of the ring, Tyson was not nearly as great of a man. In 1992, he was convicted of raping a woman and sentenced to 6 years in jail, later released after 3. Once out, Tyson wanted right back in the ring. His big comeback fight was against Evander Holyfield, who had previously taken the heavyweight champion title away from Tyson. Being that this was the second time these two would be fighting and considering the circumstances surrounding it, the entire world was watching this highly publicized event. But unknowingly to Holyfield, Tyson was fighting this match with prison rules. As soon as it looked like Holyfield had Tyson up against the ropes, Tyson snapped out and bit off one of Holyfield's ears. Tyson was disqualified from the match and lost his boxing license, though it was later reinstated. The match achieved notoriety as one of the most bizarre fights in boxing history. Before being a movie star and the governor of a state, Arnold Schwarzenegger became rich and famous for his bodybuilding skills. He became a multi-millionaire just by selling his image and his workout equipment, after which he moved on to become a Hollywood actor and against all odds rise to the top, becoming one of Hollywood's most sought-after actors. When Hollywood began to bore him, Schwarzenegger moved on to politics, where he ran for governor of California. During his campaign, many of his opposing competition dug into his past and found it was full of steroids and other illegal substance abuse. They brought this all to light in an effort to shame him into backing out. But Arnold is not one to back away from a challenge. He won the campaign and became governor of the state of California. Many years later, the news tabloids would be buzzing with the newfound information that Arnold had had an affair with his maid, who later birthed their love child. After this came to light, all of Arnold's previous successes seemed to be completely overshadowed by the fact that he had a secret teenage son. His wife moved out of the house, and Arnold was ordered to pay millions of dollars in child support. In auto racing, cheating is a huge part of the sport, as teams will look to try anything and everything to give themselves even the smallest advantage, hoping that their scam will be overlooked during the pre-race inspection or go unnoticed during the actual race. Sometimes the cheating is a little more obvious, as was the case for the Formula One races in 2008 with the Renault team. The team ordered their driver Nelson Piquet Jr. to intentionally crash his vehicle during the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix in order to render the track unusable until a cleanup crew could remove the debris. The objective of this crash was to cause a restart, where all the racers would line up to race. This would allow racer Fernando Alonso to get closer to the front of the line, eventually increasing any chance Alonso had at winning. Alonso ended up winning, but the team was suspended from competition for 2 years, and Nelson Piquet Jr. ended up moving on to NASCAR. Doomed from the start, Danny Almonte was unknowingly pushed to the center of a web of lies that would ruin his professional baseball career. Danny was gifted at baseball, being able to throw a ball as fast as 70 miles an hour at the young age of 14. Danny seemed like he was the perfect fit for Little League games. There was only one problem: Danny was too old to compete. In fact, he only needed to be 2 years younger. So Danny's parents did what any responsible parent would do, and forged Danny a new birth certificate, one that says he is now 12 years old. He threw a no-hitter in the Little League World Series. For a short while, Danny's future was bright and full of possibilities, every sign pointing toward him going to the big leagues. But eventually his parents' lies caught up with him. After the forgery by his father was discovered, all of Almonte's records and wins were wiped out, and a once promising career was now nothing more than a stain in baseball history. 10 years later, Danny resurfaced for an interview, where he talked about his life growing up. He claims that his parents robbed him of a childhood in favor of training him to become a better baseball player. He would be forced to practice long hours daily and dragged to tryouts constantly. To Danny Almonte's parents, he was nothing if he wasn't a baseball player. Taking a page right from Danny Almonte's parents, during the 2000 Sydney Olympics, the Chinese government falsified the age of a female international gymnast, Dong Fangxiao. During her competitive career, Dong competed under a passport that stated her date of birth was January 20th, 1983. However, years later, when she certified to work as a technical official at the 2008 Summer Olympics, she registered using a passport that gave her a January 23rd, 1986 birthday. The 1986 birth date would have made her 14 at the 2000 Olympics. The International Federation of Gymnastics requires that the minimum age allowed to enter the Olympics is 16, making her 2 years too young. After an investigation, the International Federation of Gymnastics made an official ruling that Dong had been underage and would have been ineligible to compete. As a consequence, Dong's scores from both the 1999 Worlds and 2000 Olympics were nullified. The 2000 Chinese Olympic gymnastics team was stripped of its Olympics bronze medal and was stripped of their team's medals from the 1999 World Championships. In addition, after the investigation was over, the International Federation of Gymnastics billed the Chinese Gymnastics Federation for the cost of the inquiry, just to kick them when they're down. As crazy as it seems, the Chinese gymnastics team wasn't the only one cheating to give themselves an advantage in the 2000 Olympics. However, this time, instead of dealing with underage competitors, we're dealing with illegal drugs being taken, which is a nice change of pace. Marion Jones was a track and field athlete for the USA team during the 2000 Olympics and was a former professional basketball player for the Tulsa Shock in the WNBA. During the Olympics, she won 3 gold and 2 bronze medals. Suspicions arose when onlookers noticed a shift in her personality and an incredible improvement in her athletic ability. She was brought in to be drug tested, but before any results were made, she broke down from the pressure of lying and subsequently pleaded guilty. She claims at first her coach told her it was flax seeds, and by the time she found out the truth, it was too late. Jones was stripped of her 5 medals and was sent to prison for 6 months. Tim Donaghy was a referee for the NBA. In 2007, Donaghy was dishonorably discharged after it came to light that he had an extreme gambling addiction problem. Since Donaghy had already had a history of missing calls or making bad ones, rumors spread that he was betting on games he officiated, fixing them to his advantage. These allegations led to a full-on investigation. On August 15, 2007, Donaghy pleaded guilty to 2 federal charges related to the investigation. A year later, he was sentenced to 15 months in prison and 3 years of supervised parole. The NBA's reputation is still recovering from the incident. The 2000 Summer Paralympics in Sydney, which had already seen controversy with numerous positive drug tests, would be the venue for one of the most scandalous events in the sport's history, as well as being the inspiration for the movie The Ringer. At the 2000 Paralympic Games held in Sydney, Australia, the Spanish Paralympics basketball coach Fernando Martín Vicente recruited a team of able-bodied men to fake having a mental disability. The Spanish basketball team unsurprisingly blew away their competition, and everyone went home with gold medals hanging hanging around their necks. However, one of the members of the victorious team, Carlos Ribagorda, was too guilt-ridden to keep up the shame. He and an undercover journalist worked together to reveal to a Spanish business magazine that most of Ribagorda's colleagues had not undergone the required medical tests to ensure that they had a disability. Once news broke, the IPC investigated these claims and found that the Spanish Paralympic Committee did not perform the required mental tests, which would have shown that none of their competitors had an IQ under 70, which is the highest IQ allowed. In addition, Ribagorda alleged that some Spanish participants in the table tennis, track and field, and swimming events were also faking their disability, leading to the possibility that 5 or more medals could have been won fraudulently. After it was confirmed that 10 of the 12 competitors in the winning team were not disabled, Fernando Martín Vicente, president of the Spanish Federation of Sportspeople with Intellectual Disabilities, publicly apologized for the error and accepted total responsibility, resigning just before the findings were officially publicly released. 2 weeks later, the team was officially disqualified and was ordered to return the gold medals. This entire controversy is widely considered to be one of, if not the most scandalous sporting moments in all of recorded sports history. The Tour de France, the world's largest annual cycling race, which consists of athletes from all over the globe competing against each other as they race across France, is considered one of the most physically excruciating competitions one could put their body through. Many top cyclists struggle to complete it, and often some will end up in the hospital. That being said, there is one man who proved time and time again that he was the best. Not only did he compete in the races for over a decade, he won 7 of them in a row, quickly becoming the fan favorite, all while being a survivor of testicular cancer, which cost him 1 testicle. But who knows, maybe that's his secret. That man was Lance Armstrong. Unfortunately, after over a decade of being a cyclist and pushing his body to its limits daily, Lance flew too close to the sun and got caught. In 2012, a new drug test revealed that Lance had been taking multiple brands of steroids. Many other athletes competing in the